Welcome back. The last time we spoke CRX, this was looking like a nice easy recommission, back on the road and enjoy for the summer. Since then I've dug a bit deeper and I have found some more corrosion. Quite a few holes, a hell of a lot of suspension that needs replacing, and some fuel lines that just fell apart in my hands.
Oh dear, we have got a problem.
So that takes this job very much firmly into the restoration mode, but that's not a problem. Today, we're going to have a little look at the progress that's been made, of which there's quite a bit, and get you guys back up to speed on everything CRX. Let's go and take a look. So then, first things first, rear suspension. Ignore the fact that this corner of the car is missing. This is falling apart and the fuel tank isn't on the car, nor is the rear bumper or the rear lights. We'll talk about that in a minute. Now, in our last video, the rear control arm bushes needed replacing. Not a problem at all. Let me take that rear suspension off. Here's some footage of me removing that about 7 months ago. Now the first arm that I had to remove was the rear camber arm. Controls the in and out camber of the rear wheels. I took that apart and the bush inside of that was shot. And then I found other things that were shot as well. So I thought, bite the bullet, buy a full suspension poly bush kit for the whole car. That bush wasn't included, so I had to go aftermarket. Then I removed the rear control arm and the rear tow arms were just as bad. The bush was not included in that kit either. So I had to go aftermarket on those. And combined with the rear control arm bushes, we've got everything that we need for the rear suspension. And at that point, I could have just put the bushes in and chucked it back on the car. But that's not the way to go. Not when this has become a restoration. So I bought a blast cabinet. And here it is, a Sealy shot blasting cabinet, which I got for what I thought was a steal on Facebook Marketplace, which it was. However, when you do a bit of reading online, the internet will tell you that unmodified, these are a waste of time. So I modified it. I had to add dust extraction. The extractor cost just as much as the cabinet. Upgraded the lighting to LED so you can see what you're doing. Upgraded the glass so you can see what you're doing. Removed the siphon tube, made a metering valve, added a regulator so I can regulate the amount of air going in, stuck some media in, and here's the results. So now there's no need for wire brushing and a brush on a drill and all the mess everywhere. It's all confined to the cabinet. And I wish I'd have bought one about 15 years ago because it's made light work of it. It's been amazing. And then after everything has been blasted, everything has been primed, then everything has been painted just with Hammerite in a can, and here's the end results. The end results are that all the suspension parts have been saved, everything's been blasted back to bare metal, and it's lovely and shiny. These look like they lived underneath the sea for the last 20 years, and now they're saved and ready for bushes. All the threads have been tapped and everything's good. Probably a little bit sad, but when you stick things through the blast cabinet, details start to raise their head. This has got an R on it because it's on the right hand side of the car. So is this. Everything is sided and handed and everything's just come out nicely. A little bracket that goes over the ABS sensor, I believe, underneath the car. R for right hand side. And all these little brackets and bolts, everything has been saved and everything's nice and original and shouldn't go rusty again. My next decision is what to do with the rear suspension. This is where I'd like your guys' opinions. Rear damper, give it a push in. It's a little bit slow to come back out. Now the internet tells me that that should come back out a little bit quicker. So, is that damper stuffed? In which case, a nice set of new springs isn't going to do it much good. And then when you go for an original damper plus a spring, it's going to be pretty much the cost as an uprated damper and a spring, which sometimes can come in line with the price of an aftermarket coilover. Second-hand, new, Tyne, Öhlins. Which way do you go? If anyone in the audience has done a CRX on aftermarket shocks and springs and they could recommend something that would be the way to go, I'm all ears. But I think if I'm going to this amount of trouble, this is probably going to end up in the bin as well, if I can confirm whether that lack of rebound is a problem. But the internet tells me that it is. Now then, rear suspension sorted. Let's talk about fuel, or lack of it. Fuel tank and lack of rear bumper and rear lights. We'll talk about that in a second. When I removed the rear suspension, it exposed quite a bit of surface corrosion. It's an old car, I get it. And I thought I can clean that off, I can strip it back, I can paint it, underseal it, stone chip it, Lanagard it, whatever we want to do. But I cannot get to the little bit underneath the fuel tank. And why go to this amount of trouble and treat just the wheel arches and half the underside when you might as well pull the tank out? Because as you saw in our previous video, there was a couple of fuel lines underneath the car that were past their best. Now, here's a little bit of footage of me draining the fuel tank many months ago. How much fuel did the previous owner leave in for me? Right, I got no idea how much old fuel is in here because I cannot have a little look through the sender hole in the top, and we've got no battery, so we've got no accurate fuel gauge. I just got to hope that the previous owner back in 2004 decided that about this much of an orange bucket was enough. How much can I get in here? 12 litres. How big's the tank? A lot bigger than that if it's full. Oh God. Shit. Smells like fuel to me. But how much? Fuck. Should have taken the cap off. Here she goes. Ah. Please be less than 12. This could be a full tank. Oh, please don't be. And then when we get it apart, we can have a look just how good or bad the tank is. And then see how much work we've got moving forward. This isn't slowing down. It's like being back at work. Ooh, come on.
Fucking hell. Shit job. Let's go again. I reckon these clothes are going in the wash tonight. Don't get it in the bucket. Non-stop, literally non-stop. Right, third and final bucket I reckon this time. I've cleaned the bucket out so it's lovely and spotless now, whereas before it's full of old oil because of draining down for oil changes and stuff. So if we get the last bit of the tank out, at least now we'll know how much rust and contaminants and dirt, because what's been falling out has looked relatively clean, but impossible to say until you see it in the bottom of a bucket. Hopefully this will be the last one.
There you go. The answer was a hell of a lot. Well over half a tank, but look inside the tank.
Pump has come out. Bear in mind this has been sat for 20 years. That looks, I just don't get it. 20 years. But surely the tank must be rusty. No. I'm beyond gobsmacked. That's got to be one of the, looks like a brand new tank. It hasn't moved. I mean, look, even the bottom is spotless. All up the sides. I am absolutely amazed. That is it's a huge win.
It looks like brand new, and I can only assume that was because it was stored with a lot of fuel in and old fuel with no ethanol in. However, when I removed that fuel tank, those corroded fuel lines just fell apart.
Oh dear, we have got a problem. I was undoing this nut to remove the fuel line and these two bolts that goes up to the pump. This is the hard line that goes up into the cabin and all the way through the interior, and it was rusted to this nut. Consequently, it sheared and split.
And up on top of the tank, you've got a section of treated original hardline, which measures exactly 8mm. And then that needs to work its way from the pump down, up and into the cabin. And I think I can get an 8mm compression that will compression fit in with an olive like you would use in the gas or plumbing industry onto the hard line, cut that nice and clean, and then take that down to like an AN6 braided, which will go down and through and up and on top of the tank. And then we can get like a AN6 to 14mm eyelet, eye bolt sort of thing, banjo bolt, and that will go on top. So I'm hoping we can get rid of all the grotty lines and make new lines with a combination of a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But inside of the tank, wow, what a result. And the pump looks like brand new. I'm not even going to think twice, that pump is going back in. It's an original Honda pump, I'm pretty sure. It's done 130,000 miles. Is it false economy to put that back in? I don't think so, because it's not going to be very difficult to drop the tank if it ever lets me down. I mean, if it was rotten, then yeah, it would be a no-brainer. It would be start again time. But now that that is removed, every single piece from the front of the suspension back to the rear of the car is exposed, and I can now start to clean and treat and protect the underside of the car. which is why I removed the rear bumper and the lights, so I can get access to the rear panel, remove ABS sensors and that sort of stuff. So things are moving on at a pace, which is positive, but we all know what stage is next, the dirty bit. Before we talk about the underside and what comes next, let's address the corrosion. This was not an MOT failure. It was just a little bit on the arch. It was more than 30 centimeters from a structural point. It would not have been a problem. No need to touch it. But when you start having a little scrunch around on those inner arches, there's not much left of them. And when this turned from a recommission, get it back on the road looking ratty, to a restoration, well, that's not going to work. That's no good. That has to go. So I've taken a lot of reference pictures and I've cut out to what I thought was solid metal, and I need to do a little bit more cutting. Annoyingly, it doesn't appear that you can get these as repair sections, and there's a couple of holes here that takes bumper mounts that have to be in a very particular location, and there's quite a few complex curves and whatnot going on with the return arch lip, and this bit that you don't see and this bit that you do, and then you've got the inner arches to fab and stuff like that. So I think I might have to buy a little bit of tooling and go a little bit involved and learn a few more skills. Otherwise I'd buy a panel off the shelf and make it fit. But I think regardless of which route we go, we're going to have to make some inner arches as a minimum. So there's going to be a little bit of welding to do. Let's talk about the other side as well, the rust-free side. This side initially didn't look too bad. I did a little bit of digging around on this inner arch and I found a tiny bit of surface corrosion. Then I poked it with a screwdriver and it turned into 3 holes. And I thought, fair enough, whatever. To repair that the right way, I'm going to need to remove the side skirt. So I did. Look what I found. I won't push it too hard, otherwise my hand will go through the car. But it's out of sight, out of mind, isn't it? If I would never have removed those, it never would have failed an MOT, because you can only fail what you can see, and we never would have known. And that's an outer sill, you know, that's not the best. There's going to be a little bit more further down here. I can just tell there's a bit of surface corrosion that's going to go a little bit further, but right down the front, solid. And the other side, I haven't been brave enough to remove it yet, but I will once I've gone through the fabrication process on the rear wing. Like I say, this inner wing looks pretty good, and the inner bit initially it feels good. We'll see what we get away with that, but I don't want to go too mad on this bit. If we can get away with just a tiny patch there or more, then we will. But I just want a solid car that's ready for paint. I also need a door. Anybody got one? Don't have to be silver, just has to be straight. So there we have it. Honda CRX recommission turned into a restoration. And before we go, passenger wing template made out of cardboard. And these are my templates to try and fabricate an outer and inner wing. So some new skills to be learned, and that should be a little bit of fun moving forward. Like I say, the next bit for the car is all the dirty work underneath, which nobody wants to see because it's boring, and nobody wants to do because it's not very fun. But that will happen, and then after that is done, we'll pick things back up when it's time to do some shiny bolt-on bits and also a little bit of fuel system. But like I say, I thought I'd drop in to let you know that things are progressing and progress has been made. The restoration is underway and it will make for a much better car and a better end product. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing this back on the road, because I've not driven one for about 15 years because I'm getting old. Anyway, thanks very much for dropping in and saying hi. See you soon.